Welcome into the Warchant.com report. I'm Jeff Cameron of ESPN Radio alongside Corey Clark and Gene Williams, of course, of Warchant.com. And it's Florida State, Florida week. Good times. Noon on Saturday, ABC. The Noles coming off a huge win against Boston College in dramatic fashion. And that win, guys, over BC was the second game where FSU was able to get the run game going a little bit. That is a nice thing to see. More than a handful of designed runs for DeAndre Francois. Now, not huge yardage on those plays, but close to 4 yards per carry. But more importantly, Cam Akers, 14 carries, 110 yards, and 7.86 yards there. What do you think, Gene? Is this a result of the running game coming around and Cam Akers looking better, feeling better, understanding, or is that just an initial lucky bump there for one game, 2 games?
Well, your eyeballs tell you that. I mean, you saw him run. It looked like a different runner than we saw in the first half of the season. He's breaking tackles. There's some want-to there. That long run, I mean, it was like the guy we saw last year. He's shaking guys off. He's
breaking
determined.
tackles.
So that was something. I'd like to say maybe the offensive line is also part of this, and then we get access to say. I didn't think it was. We went back and looked at the grades. They still graded out at 51%. Which, by the way, is not very good.
Banner day for us, though.
But, I mean,
yeah, that's the best
and Cam Akers, of his 110 yards, 86 of those came after contact. So he's not really getting the holes to run through, so he did real well. To give you a little perspective on the offensive line, FSU is the only FBS school that's grading out on the season under 50%. But the good news is they did get those rushing yards. At least it was okay rushing game, which is a heck of a lot better than it has been.
Well, and I will say this, making it a defense account for DeAndre Francois, running the ball, listen, he's not Mike Vick, but he's a guy that obviously you're looking at now that looks a little bit healthier than he has at any point, and you're making defenses account for that.
Yeah, and I asked Willie about that on Monday, and he said that DeAndre's healthy. To me, he's been healthy all year. To me, he looked more athletic and healthier with a burst. Again, he's not Johnny Manziel. It's not a crazy. There's not a lot of fast twitch going on in those bursts, but there's some. And yeah, he rushed for around 30 yards, which isn't great. That's not an unbelievable number, but it's 30 yards you weren't getting normally. Right. And they outrushed Boston College by 30 yards. And it's crazy that Florida State outrushed Boston College. I would have never thought in a million years that would happen. That's kind of why one of the reasons, obviously, they won the game. But yeah, when he kept the ball on his own read once, he ran for 2 first downs. He had run for 2 first downs the entire season before the Boston College game. He ran for 2 in that game. Again, that's not incredible that you ran for just 2 first downs, but for what this offense was moving forward, it's a nice little wrinkle. It's another added element that they have to account for. He's not going to bust off a 30-yarder, but sometimes 4-yard and 6-yard runs are pretty good.
Yeah, well, I talk about the staying out of negative plays. So for me, DeAndre Francois doesn't have to run for 8 yards per carry. If he runs for 3, it's not, 2nd and 13, 2nd and 7. It's manageable. You got a chance. You may not win the down, but you're not losing the down. And early in the year, they lost the down constantly. We all looked up at the, down in distance, it was always 2nd and 15, 3rd and 17. They're not seeing that as much anymore, so it's helping in the run game. Defensively, Florida State obviously stopped the run, and we'd said all week long that, look, if you're going to beat Boston College, you're going to have to shut down the run. And this has been a weird defense this year, a Jekyll and Hyde defense, if you will. Held BC to just over 3 yards per carry overall, and completely shut down A.J. Dillon, who's one of the premier backs in the country, at just 3.14 yards per carry, 37 carries. They were going to give it to him come hell or high water, but he really wasn't gaining any yards. It was not an efficient effort. So do you think this is a sign the defense has what it takes to get stops in the run game this weekend? Have they turned the corner?
I think I've kind of got this run defense figured out. I remember the first half of the season, they were doing really well. They were ranked in the top 10. What it is they've got a real fragile mindset. I think whether it's consciously or subconsciously, when they fall behind by double digits, they just kind of, we know this offense can't come back, so forget it. Because think about it, first quarter against Clemson, pretty darn good. All of a sudden they're down 14-17, nothing what it is. They kind of gave up. Think about Notre Dame, it's 17-0 in the middle of the first quarter. They kind of folded up 10. In this game, they were in the game the whole time, so they knew they had to fight and claw to keep the team in the game, the offense, and it ended up did go back and win because they kept them close enough. And I think that's what's with it with them. If they're in the game, they fight, they're pretty good, and they'll absolutely need to do that. We'll talk about that in the next segment, but Florida can run the damn football, so they're going to need to continue that play if they want to have a chance Saturday.
Yeah, and they struggled on third down, and that's going to happen, I think, though. I'll throw this out there. I want to get your thoughts on this, Corey. They got to play zone when they're in third and long because they can't play man. They can't cover anybody in man. And so you're going to give up some plays. Now, ideally, you're not going to give so much cushion that they convert third and 18. But I think they don't want to turn their backs to a mobile quarterback also in this last game against Boston College. If you're in man and your back's turned, he's taken off. So they thought it's a tough pill to swallow, but we'll go zone. He gave up some plays, but they kept everything in front of him.
Yeah, the guy threw for 280 yards, made some big throws on third down. But, yeah, it's better than what had been happening, right? Yeah. I mean, you weren't giving up. You weren't pass interfering every other player, being called for it, I should say. And you weren't giving up touchdowns with your back to the quarterback. So that was good. That was a positive. But what happens when you play zone, especially a team that's not used to playing zone, they're not good at it. They weren't good at it.
No.
Linebackers don't get any depth. They don't take away throwing lanes. 3rd and 18, rushing 3, and giving up the easiest 20-yard pass of the season. I mean, Boston College doesn't pick up 3rd and 18s.
No.
They're not built for that. They don't want to do that. They don't practice that. I doubt they practiced all year 3rd and 18.
They might have.
I mean, it would be
just
a quick
every
punt.
now and again.
Probably a quick punt. Just a quick kick on 3rd and 18, and they're out there getting 20 yards, and they got to get better on the third down defense. But again, you give up something, and but the reward was they didn't give up touchdowns.
Well, and when you have a quarterback that is not really accurate consistently, I think you're going to take your chances on him making those throws. If he makes the throws, you doff your cap and you go on. I think they'll do it again this weekend against Florida. Felipe Franks isn't great, completing less than 60% of his passes. I'm going to make him beat me deep. Yeah. I don't think he can. And if he does, you lose.
That's a cap that you would doff.
You would doff this cap, would you not? You would doff this cap. In fact, let's preview the Florida team in just a moment, and we'll do it here on the Warchant.com report.
It's football season in Tallahassee, and the only place to go for FSU apparel and merchandise is Garnet and Gold. Locally owned and operated by Seminoles for Seminoles for nearly 40 years. Garnet and Gold has the best selection of FSU merchandise in town, but what we really sell is tradition and passion to serve you, the true Seminole fans, at all 3 of our locations, West Pensacola Street, Killarn, and our flagship store across from Regal Cinema. Online at garnetandgold.com. Shop local and go Noles.
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Obviously, Florida State, Florida now with a lot on the line. More than just a rivalry game this time around, as Florida State has a chance to get bowl eligible and keep that streak alive. But they'll have to get past Florida, and Florida's offense will start with that. Willie Taggart talking about Felipe Franks, the quarterback.
You could tell he's improved from last year, and I think Coach Mullen and the staff have done a great job of playing to his strength, and he's doing that with their entire offense, and that's helping them be successful. And they're doing a good job of run and pass, and running the quarterback as well. So I think Coach Mullen hadn't really put him in position to hurt him. He put him in position to help him, and it's helped them so far.
That's Willie Taggart on Felipe Franks. And, you look at this Florida offense, they are a very efficient team, but they're not very explosive. If you look at big plays, not a lot of big plays, but they do sustain drives, top 25 in that category, ranked 100th in explosive plays. So they're going to plod along here. They're not getting the ball down the field all that often. Felipe Franks having a pretty good year statistically with the 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But I attribute this to Dan Mullen doing a good job of understanding we're not going to let our quarterback get us beat. There's a lot of safe throws, little 6- and 7-yard throws. That explains the lack of explosive plays. But talk to me about Felipe Franks, what he brings to the table coming into this game.
Still not great.
Yeah.
Still not one of the better quarterbacks on Florida State's schedule. They've certainly played better kids than this guy. But he kind of knows what he is. And if you don't turn the ball, if you're not any good, but you don't turn the ball over,
you can win with that.
You can win.
He's the Alex Smith of college football.
Well, that's a little too high praise. But he's not Alex Smith. Even the NFL version of Alex Smith.
That's what I mean, the NFL
he's not even
that.
Yeah. But he doesn't get them beat typically. He's just not, I think a lot of his yards and touchdowns, not a ton of yards, and he are on little screen passes.
6.9 yards per attempt.
It's been schemed up pretty well for Mullen to keep him from losing games. If Florida State can make him beat them, he won't. You know what I mean? I don't think he's the guy that can do that, except maybe hit a few runs here or there.
Yep.
He's not going to beat you with his right arm typically, and he's gonna throw it to you a few times. You've got to take advantage of those, and you've got to pick them off. You can't drop touchdowns or drop interceptions and bang your helmet. That was close. You got to make those plays. He's going to give you a couple. You got to take advantage of it.
Well, and I think there's a chance. We talked about playing zone and how maddening that can be, but I would do it here. I'd make him beat me with throws, but because I think Florida's going to want to line up and run the football, Gene. And you look at their 2 running backs, whether you're talking about P. Ryan or Scarlett, kind of similar guys. One's 210, one's 227. They both have over 600 yards rushing. They're both north of 5 yards per carry. P. Ryan's the bigger back at 227. So you got to ball that running game up and make Felipe beat you.
Yeah, that's one thing I think Mullen kind of messed up early in the season. Some of these games, he wasn't completely dedicated to the run. You're not going to, like you pointed out, you're not going to win with Felipe Franks. But, I mean, you got two really good running backs that you point out, Jeff. They had 367 rushing yards against South Carolina, but they didn't rush the ball that much in the first half when they fell behind. Like, what are you thinking? All of a sudden, they dedicated to the run. They were able to pull away and win that game. One of the reasons for that, not only both of these backs, like you mentioned, big backs, excellent running backs. They've got a veteran offensive line. Remember, for years, Florida State was awful, or Florida was awful offensive line. Well, all those guys are now seniors and redshirt juniors. They're pretty darn good. They got 143 career starts between them all, and that makes a difference. You got a big line. You got two physical backs. They're going to come out here and try to be physical in Florida State. Do a lot of what Boston College did in a different way, but it's the same kind of philosophy here.
It's interesting. I do think, again, the kind of ruggedness we talked about from this defense against Boston College, a willingness to run fit and come up and make stops. You got to do it here, obviously, if you're going to beat Florida. And if you look at this defense, let's look at Florida's defense now. Top 45 versus the run S&P, if you're looking at what they can do defensively in stopping Florida State's run. And I guess you would look at this and say, what do they do really well? Well, they put you in down distance leverage problems, and they wreak havoc. Havoc rate of 18th, Corey. I know you want to comment.
Well, they have a havoc rating of 18?
Yeah, 18th. Pretty
Wow.
good. They get in the backfield if they can dictate terms.
Havoc meaning like just
Creating havoc.
havoc.
You know what havoc means,
I do know what havoc means,
rate's
just in the sense of the
I bring
football.
up havoc rate once a year because it's my thing, but they're top 20 havoc rate.
Okay, all right. I see what you're
I
doing
wonder how
over
you
there,
grade
Florida.
that. You just
Creating
when there's
havoc.
willy-nilly in the backfield.
Well, I
it's
mean, I think when play breaks down and you're running around, we got us a havoc rate. There we go.
They do have two NFL defensive ends. Those guys are good. And Florida State's tackles, I don't know if you've been watching the games.
They're
this
not
year,
very
Jeff.
good.
Not all that strong at that position. So that's a bit of an issue in this game. And what Florida does, quite frankly, what they do better than Florida State more than anything else is they create turnovers and they don't turn the ball over much. They're +8 this year in turnover margin. They're +7. Florida State's -8. It's a 15 turnover difference there. That's the difference between 2 or 3 wins, at least.
Yeah.
Florida's 20th in the country, 22nd in the country in turnover margin. Florida State's 115th. To me, that's what it comes down to. Now, obviously, the reason Florida creates so many turnovers is they're creating havoc like I've never seen.
Havoc rate is through the roof.
I've never
This
seen
is
anything
what
like
we're
this.
talking about. I love that I brought the stat to the table, and then you talked your way into understanding
But
it. It was
I
fantastic.
assume there has to be a correlation
I
between
would think-
havoc rating and turnovers.
I would think so. Luckily, though, duplicating turnovers each week is sometimes more about luck than skill. So you got to stay out of those situations
Sure.
where havoc can be wreaked.
Sure.
That's what you got to
Well,
do.
you need your quarterback to not throw it to the other team,
That
and
helps.
you need to not fumble the ball.
Okay, defensively, what don't they do well? I saw some stats that kind of got me excited about the potential for big plays.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I also think at times you mentioned one stat on running, but at times they've been a little weak against run. There are 2 losses, which are embarrassing at home. Missouri and Kentucky, they ran all over them. Kentucky ran for over 300 yards against them. Missouri was like 225 against them. So if you can establish that run, now I don't think Florida State's going to go out and do that, but if they can do it, they did this last week, and maybe get in the 150 range, keep it honest, and give the potential for that play action and then the big plays. If you go out trying to chuck it around, that's not going to work. You're going to turn the ball over. You're going to do what you want to do. One thing that's interesting about Florida when I looked at their defensive front, not real big. 269-pound average across that front 4, so you got an opportunity to maybe be a little physical, maybe
It's our
push them.
offensive line.
Well, you got big guys. Maybe just fall down on them or something or whatever. At least you've got the size advantage. Hey, I'm grasping for straws here in that offensive line. There is something there on paper that looks like you might be able to get physical with them up front.
Somebody else could, that's for sure. Kentucky and Missouri did. They lined up and beat them up. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that, but they do give up some big plays, explosive plays defensively. So if you can keep them honest, you got a chance to exploit that going down the field, obviously to a star like Tamorian Terry. When we come back, we'll look at the impact of this game. It could be a huge impact between Florida State and Florida and recruiting. Obviously, we look at the history behind this and the streaks that are on the line. We'll do that next in the Warchant.com report.
Hey, this is John in Greenville, South Carolina.
This is Eric from New Haven, Connecticut.
My name's Jared. I'm from Mobile, Alabama.
Justin from Oklahoma.
This is Ranye from Marshall, Georgia.
This is Terrell calling from Texas.
This is Josh from St. Louis, Missouri.
This is Roderick from North Carolina.
Wake up, Corey. Wake up, Aslan. It's Gibby. Still coming to you guys from East Village in Manhattan, New York City.
This is Kevin. I'm up here in Radford, Virginia.
It's Chris from beautiful sunny Phoenix.
Sam Wright, all the way from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hey, this is Josh from South Dakota.
Just wanted to call and say love the show.
First of all, I want to start off by saying I love you guys' show.
I really appreciate the show.
Great show, guys.
Really enjoy it.
I love the podcast.
Big fan of the show. Keep up the good work, guys.
Keep up the good work. Love the show.
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up!
Wake up, Warchant!
Welcome back to the Warchant.com report. Florida State, Florida, noon on Saturday, ABC. And as always, you can go to the Warchant.com game day page for all the game watching locations throughout the country. You can get together with your friends and cheer on Florida State, looking to become bowl eligible. In fact, let's look at that. We could ask that, 36 straight bowls. That's amazing. 5-year run, winning streak against the University of Florida. Love to make that 6. I can start talking about the Platinum Bohica. But in addition to all of that, of course, I think it might make a big difference in the way that this season and Willie Taggart's coaching staff, as well as Willie Taggart, is perceived if you were able to get a victory here. Going 6-6 like you did a year ago, but with much tougher circumstances with the offensive line, and you beat a rival to do it and win your last 2 games, I think that would show the fans that things are moving in the positive direction. You'd also get all of those practice. I guess talk about the impact of winning this game against Florida if they can get it done.
Well, I think you mentioned that too. It's not just, the fans love the streaks, obviously, keep it going against Florida, keep that bowl streak alive. But I think for Willie Taggart's tenure at Florida State, this is really important because, all those blowout losses, look, it's a sour taste in everyone's mouth. But you go out a couple wins in a row, you get to a bowl, you start to forget about some of those stuff. And then we talked a couple weeks ago, Jeff, about the financial issues this team's going to face going forward, this program, especially with a bad schedule next year. A lot easier to sell tickets when you just beat your rival. You won your last 2 or 3 if they get in a bowl game and win that, than it would be otherwise. Now, talking about the 15 practices and all that, that's great. But you know what that also does? Recruiting, because recruits come by, they get to see your position coach working with the kids. What happens when they go to Florida? They go to Georgia, they're practicing, they come to Florida State, and they're all sitting around in the offices. Well, we're not practicing because we're not in a bowl game. So, it's huge not only to get those practices in, but to have those kids on campus being able to participate or at least observe these practices in a normal environment. So, yeah, really big, I think, in a macro perspective going forward the next couple of years for Willie Taggart.
Yeah, Corey, I'm curious. We've talked a lot about the start of Willie Taggart's career here at Florida State and how you don't want year one to be a referendum on what's possible for him. But clearly in the eyes of fans, if the bowl streak ends and you lose to both your rivals in the same year, the perception is that this year would be a resounding failure, and it's hard to break through the following year, like Gene said, with the schedule you have. I don't think they're going to be a great team next year, so if you're middling, at some point you got to win everybody over.
Yeah, I think what this game, to me, I disagree with Gene a little bit. I think it's more perception than reality. I think the perception will change a lot with this game. Can be altered to wow, it's not a bad season. It was 6-6,
right.
Finished well. No, it's a bad season.
Yeah, it's not a good season, no.
6-6 is not good enough around here. And whether you lose to Florida 21-17 or you beat them 23-20, it doesn't change what this team is, in my opinion. And I don't think it changes what this team will be in 2020 or 2021. I think for more than anything, it's the fans and what they think of Willie Taggart. That's why this game to me is a big deal because, yeah, that's not a great look. Been going to bowl games since you were
a child.
Literally, since I was in a crib almost.
Yeah.
They've been going to, and I didn't get out of the crib till I was 7.
Yeah, it took you a while.
Weird deal.
Didn't start peeing your bed till you were 20.
No,
yeah,
crazy. You heard that story.
Crazy, I know.
So anyway, that's not a great look if your first year, the team that's been to bowl games forever doesn't go to a bowl. But in reality, I don't know that it means that much about the direction of the program because I think this season has already been this season. It's not good. This is not a good football program right now, whether they win this game or not. It would be really cool to continue those streaks, though. And it would be nice for him and his staff to end on an uptick.
Well, and I think, again, that the streak matters.
Sure.
It is something that fans hold on to for obvious reasons because if it were so easy to do, everybody would and nobody else does. And so it's something that you can laud. I also think that given how hamstrung Willie Taggart and his staff were with this offensive line, it wasn't just that it was bad, Gene, it was also injury-riddled. Mm-hmm. If you find and the schedule was brutal. Yeah. If you find a way to go 6-6, the guy you replaced was 5-6 when he left last year, and they were rescheduling a game against a lesser-tier team. You're going to go 6-6 against a much tougher schedule, and you end up beating Florida at the end of the year. I don't know, man. With this offensive line, I would say that that's a Herculean accomplishment. It doesn't change the fact that you got blown out in some games, and they're got to get better. But I think it matters a lot. And 3 keys to this football game, Gene. I'll start with you. Your thoughts on how they get it done.
Well, I guess it can pretty much mirror Boston College. I think it's very similar in this thing. First of all, you got to if Florida's able to run effectively against you, it's over, because that way, they're controlling the ball, they can set up play action, and they're going to probably beat you relatively easy. But I mean, you're able to do it against Boston College, which is as good, if not better, than Florida running the football. So I think you got a good shot there to do that. And Corey brought up the whole turnover thing. This is not a game where the turnover trends can continue. If Florida wins the turnover battle by 2 or 3, you're going to lose bad again. You have to at least draw even better, maybe go up a turnover or 2. I know that's outrageous thinking about Florida State doing that. The last thing, how about running a little bit? You don't need to run great, but I talked about it earlier. You run just a little bit and set up that play action. I think that'll help a lot.
They're doing a better job of blocking the right guy. They don't always do it effectively, but assignment-wise, they kind of know who they're getting, so maybe they'll have a chance there to run the football. I agree with Gene. Also, I just think some of the things you saw, and Corey, I want to get your thoughts on keys to the game. I sat down on the 50, first row behind the bench this past game, and I was looking at every interaction between players, coaches, and segment groups. And one of the things that I noticed was that they were impassioned from the beginning. This defense had been challenged. I'm sure during the week their manhood was called into question. Are you going to bow up and make a stop against the run? The same attitude that Jackson brought to the table in this game, because he set the tone with the 14 tackles and the sack and all that. They got to do it here.
Yeah, for sure. You got to tackle, man. What I thought they did better against Boston College than they have all season is pursued. There were plays where it looked like, man, Dylan's turned the corner. There's nobody there. One guy wouldn't bring him down, but would slow him down, and then the whole team was on top of him. That was good to see. It's not going to be quite as easy against Florida because of the way they run their offense. They spread you out a little more. So you've got to tackle in space. You've got to. This isn't the best tackling team we've ever seen.
No.
We've talked about that before. But you got to tackle in space. I think that's a huge key. Just find a way to be close to even on special teams.
Ooh,
just find a way.
That's a big ask.
There's a lot of hidden yards in special teams, I like to say.
I do too.
And
they should write about
Florida
that.
State never finds them. They're hidden forever. They're buried away in somewhere
vault.
in a
How about
vault.
just don't commit penalties on special teams?
Well, hey,
Maybe that's a
that's
more
too much
achievable
ask,
goal.
Gene. That's
Just
too
fair
much
catch
ask.
everything and
but
don't
give up kick
fair
returns
catch.
to the 38. Don't push kids out of bounds when they've already blocked in the back. Anything like that, man. The special teams has to be just. It can't be awful.
Don't you like it when there are a multitude of penalties on one play?
It's the best.
I love when we commit a face mask, push out of bounds, and block in the back.
It's all
We got the trifecta right here, and you do not want any of this on special teams. All right, here we go. Weekly picks. Oklahoma's at West Virginia, and what's being called a pick'em. I'm going to go with West Virginia.
Really?
Yeah. Neither team's going to stop anybody.
Go with Oklahoma on this one. I bet against West Virginia, and they beat me every time.
What you got?
I feel like Oklahoma, I guess. I like that quarterback.
Right.
51 to 50.
Two quarterbacks.
51 to 50. Yeah, they're two really good quarterbacks.
Nobody's going to get stops. All right, Washington. Oh, the Apple Cup. Here we go. Washington State hasn't won this in forever. They got a good chance this year with that defense. Washington State giving 3 to Washington. It's in Pullman, buddy.
I think they're due. Give me State.
Give me State.
Little stat I saw watching the Washington State game on Saturday.
I like that
Their
about you.
quarterback, who's going to go to the Heisman ceremony, has completed 200 passes this year at or behind the line of scrimmage. 200.
Nobody can dink and dunk like that guy.
20 passes a game
Alex
that
Smith
dude
in
is throwing
college
at the
football.
line of scrimmage.
That's right.
Not that means one way or the other. I'm going to say Washington, just because I don't want to. I
like
don't want
that.
to celebrate those kind of offenses that are just throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage.
Pittsburgh's at Miami. The Canes are surprisingly giving 5. I wouldn't give points with Miami against anybody. I'll take Pitt.
No, I'm with you all the way. I'm still kind of shocked. I knew Virginia Tech's bad. I just didn't know they were that bad.
Injury riddled on defense. Can't make a stop. If we played them now, we'd beat them.
Canes turned it around last week, found something. Hey, what's the matter with you? They win going away.
Wow.
I'm going to talk off the air. Michigan's given 3.5 to Ohio State. Speaking of not stopping anybody, there's something wrong in Columbus. What could be wrong at Ohio State? Seems like they had off-field problems and the kids aren't responding to the head coach. I don't know. I'll take Michigan minus 3.5.
How the heck did Urban do it again? And the guy's wide open on the two-pointer and the quarterback. It's like Satan came in and just knocked it down. Not against my boy. You're not getting this.
No.
I'm going to do the reverse jinx and take Urban just to try to screw him here.
Where's that game?
It's at Ohio State.
Ohio State.
It doesn't matter.
Come
They're not
on, man.
stopping anybody
Come
anywhere.
on, man.
Nebraska went into Ohio
Everybody
State and
talks
dropped
about,
30 whatever.
what's wrong with Ohio State? It's not a very good football. Aren't they 10-1?
Are you watching the games?
I know they're 10-1, buddy.
50, so they give up over 50 to Maryland. You're like, everything's fine.
Maryland is a juggernaut.
Okay.
They've been a sleeping giant for
Well,
years.
Here we go. LSU,
Texas would agree with
A&M.
you.
Yeah, Texas would. Herman's like, God, never again. LSU's at Texas A&M. A&M minus 2.
Let's go with LSU. They're
Yeah,
definitely better team.
LSU
here.
in a landslide.
Jimbo's winning that one.
Okay.
Jimbo's winning that one.
Corey's going to be wrong all 5.
Jimbo, you're my
This is
dog.
crazy.
You know that.
It's going to be 0 for 6 for Corey. Auburn's at Alabama. Why are we bothering? Take Alabama, first half line, everybody, then bet against them in the second half. They'll already be up 30. They won't cover the second half line, but you cover the 24.5 overall, and you win the first half line. There's your pick.
I just Iron Bowl. I can't believe there's that many points.
Well,
but
because
no,
Auburn sucks.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. I think they're still probably, even though they, last year they're going to get a little revenge this time. I'll take Alabama.
Alabama's looking ahead to the real.
They didn't cover last week. They
real
didn't cover that
matchup against
51.5 last week.
So I'm going to say Auburn.
Okay.
Well, Corey's going contrary.
24.5. He's going. Yeah, he doesn't care about his picks. And then finally,
that goes without saying.
Florida State getting 4.5. I liked this against BC last week. Your thoughts against Florida this week? I'm taking the 4.5 first of all, but do you think we win the game?
I'm going to do it this. I'm calling the upset. I think they found the form that as long as that defense has that want-to again and can slow down the run, and you put the game in Felipe Franks' hands, I think he can make enough mistakes for you to win the game.
There we go.
23-20 Knowles.
Woo!
I like that Gene calls him Philippi. He's not going to call him
that. No respect.
No respect at all. Philippi, right?
Philippi out here trying to get it done.
I'm going to take Florida State plus the 4.5.
Because you know it's a close game.
I just think special teams are so bad, and there's going to be a turnover that turns the game.
21-20 Florida type thing?
I'm thinking something like that, yeah. Sorry, gang. But it's going to be a close game. People are going to be fired up going to the offseason because they played Florida close.
And got to win. Florida State 27, Florida 20.
Suck it,
What a
Gators.
day. What a day for the Noles, and they go bowling yet again. All right, good job, Aslan. For Corey and Gene, I'm Jeff. Thanks to all of you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time on the Warchant.com report. Go Noles.